Hi, and welcome to this week's episode hosted by Gray and Mark Law of St John's Health and Fitness and Mark Elm of Leeds Beckett University, where we take training theory and science onto the gym floor.
Hey up everybody, welcome back. Here we are again to the Yorkshire Fitness Podcast. We are on episode 16 today, so I hope you've been tuning in and caught up with all the other 15 prior to this. If you haven't, have a look on Apple, Spotify, where else are there? YouTube, you can watch us live videos on YouTube as well. Anywhere else? What the platform?
We're everywhere. We're on Stitcher, we're on Google Podcasts. If there's a podcast way of listening to it, we're on it. Don't ask me for the links for it. I'll remember it. I'll put it on the show notes, but we're everywhere.
Awesome, right. We're on places I'd never heard of. I didn't even know there were podcast platforms. I thought there were Apple and Spotify, that was it. So that's great. Cool. So anyway, we've got a bit of a treat, a bit of another surprise for everybody. So we had loads of good feedback when we had our guest, GP Nikki, on a couple of weeks ago. So we've got another guest today. So I'm going to kind of pass you straight on to her. So Laura, thanks for coming on. We're all really interested to hear what you've got to say today. I'm not even going to go into detail about what you do. We'll let you introduce yourself and we'll take it from there. So thanks for coming on, Laura. Here you go.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, first of all. So Laura Gomm, hypnotherapist, life coach, and I'm not here to talk to you just about the mindset and promote my business, of course, but I'm here to help you understand how you can take going from zero to almost achieving a dream goal with mindset. So the journey kind of I want to talk to you about is give you a little bit of intro to who I am, kind of my background. So I've been working with individuals on mindset changes. So for those of you who have ever had hypnotherapy, and I think you mentioned you'd had hypnotherapy back in the day. Yeah. So being a young boy. But hypnotherapy, so what is it? So almost it's what it is, it's talking to the subconscious mind. So if you think we've got something like an iceberg, and 10% of the iceberg is our conscious mind. So that's all about thinking. So we think we're going to do something. And then underneath the iceberg, there's 90% of that, and that's our subconscious mind. And that's got our beliefs, habits, and our kind of long-term memory. So a prime example of kind of using it for your listeners, I guess, who's going to the gym, who's starting that weight loss goal or who's starting that challenge and becoming the better version of themselves. They rock up on a Monday morning and go, right, I'm going to go to the gym every day this week. That's what I'm going to do. That's 10% of it, I thought. It gets to Thursday. Mates come along and said, oh, what are you going to the gym for? Let's just crack open some cans and get down the pub. And then therefore they've then probably not ruined the goal, but kind of gone, oh, why did I do that? So Friday they wake up and they're really, really disappointed. So why does that happen? So if you think that they're going back to the iceberg analogy, 10% of that is just going, oh, that's what I'll do. But then they've got an habit of belief. It's Thursday night. That's where we normally go. We normally go and crack cans open and have a good laugh with the mates. So your belief and your habits are almost then misaligned with your thinking. So we can use hypnotherapy and power of the mind to align them both. So actually achieving any goal you set yourself is a lot easier. So you're not just relying on willpower alone. And the reason I kind of come on to talk to this about today, or even how I got into it, is I used to be someone saying I've worked with Mark years and years and years ago, and I used to hate the gym. I absolutely was the person who would have just hung around at the cafeteria just eating chocolate bars. Gym and exercise was absolutely not. And then I woke up one morning and thought, I just want to run, or I just want to be a runner. I want to lose a little bit of weight, get fit, feel better in myself. So I just cracked on running and tried to that. And I actually completed the London Marathon back in 2008. So I used mindset and hypnotherapy on myself to be able to achieve that goal. Didn't want to stop it there. And then 2018 set myself another goal to then become a bikini champion. Won the Northern qualifiers in that and became on to be the British UK champion. Didn't stop there. Then I went on to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. and actually wanted to climb the mountain, get to the top and achieve those goals. So I'm not a complete lunatic, for those who don't know me. What I was doing is testing the ability of my mindset and almost that mental positive attitude. So I guess the journey I went on with all of those goals was, I didn't just rock up and decide to walk or decide to run or decide to just go in the gym. I use things like visualization. I use things like writing my own hypnotherapy scripts and almost plugging in to then talk to my subconscious mind to almost say things like, you can do this, you've got that, visualize that feeling. So
right, no, so Laura, I was just going to say, so obviously we talked to just a little bit quickly before, and just going back to rugby days, but we're only one session, we had a hypnotherapy session, that's somebody else going through it all with you. So you're saying then that this is something that you can teach yourself a little bit, to your own self-talk and your own type of hypnotherapy, and get yourself into that, tap into that.
Absolutely. So hypnotherapy, there's a technique. So I'm sure all the hypnotherapists out there will be absolutely going, absolutely not. No, tell them they need to come to a professional. So obviously you go through being certified and qualified in it. But so there is different techniques on to tapping into that subconsciousness. However, anybody can use the power of visualization or the power of their own mindset to help them achieve that goal. It won't be almost like what an hypnotherapist does, because they get deeper. They actually put people into a trance-like state. And you've said you've obviously experienced this, where you lie on the floor or lie down and get comfortable. And there's almost scripts that are, or language patterns that are read. And then we're feeding the subconsciousness with those kind of words and metaphors. So there's a specialist technique you use for that, for the hypnotherapy bit. But from a visualization piece, absolutely anybody can almost start to use that, and that comes with almost using your imagination, your mind's eye, whatever you want to call it. It could start with as something as simple as you've set your alarm to get up for the gym the next day. Alarm goes off, you think, oh, sod that, be a polar bear and pull the rug over your head. Actually, just by setting that intention the night before, telling your mind, actually, I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. It gives your body and your mind that instruction to actually get up. So almost you can use that bit of tip of the iceberg. The hypnotherapy bit comes from obviously the 90% of the subconscious, but it genuinely is that mind over matter. So by visualizing me finishing the running line when I was doing the London Marathon, by visualizing standing up on stage and almost holding a trophy. I even went to the extent of every morning when I got on that spin bike, when you are doing fasted cardio on probably, I don't know, 1,100 calories a day. There were some days where I just thought, I can't do this. And almost using that power of my mind to go, visualize that trophy. This is what you're doing it for. It got me on that spin bike. It got me to the gym at 4 a.m. sessions. So almost using that.
Yeah. Laura, so did you ever have, before you started, Laura, did you have any hypnotherapy sessions by a professional? Is that what got you into it, or was that your mindset and thought, actually this works, I want to go further into it? So is that what set you off initially? You had some hypnotherapy?
Absolutely, yes. So I was a OCD freak who used to have basically a really, really obsessive compulsive disorder, but really in an unhealthy way. So I actually had an eating disorder when I was younger. So, and that's what decided me to get fit and get trained and do it properly. So I've gone from being a 18-year-old person who had an eating disorder to then decide to go and get hypnotherapy to help me overcome that. Wow. And within 6 sessions, I was more relaxed, eating those kind of right foods, didn't have body dysmorphia anymore. And that almost triggered that momentum then to go, how do I do this properly with exercise, with eating the right kind of food, not being that almost low self-esteem? And it almost like triggered a bit of a snowball effect. Right.
So I think a bit of a misconception for hypnotherapy for me has always been, I know I took part in I went in the same rugby team, so that's the only, and I remember when we got told, when our coach told us there were a hypnotherapist coming around, I was like, well, they just like put you into a trance and get you to dance around on a stage like a chicken. That was kind of my knowledge of hypnotherapists up until that stage, and I think that's why we thought it was a bit of a joke. So it was never taken serious. And I'm pretty sure there's probably a lot of people out there who don't realise that hypnotherapy can be used as a goal-setting tool, and it's kind of how to change habits, which we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
So that's why this podcast is going to be so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I blame Paul McKenna for that. So he's done an amazing job of doing, it's been an amazing
I couldn't remember his name.
Yeah, but there is, so actually as an hypnotherapist, it's not just about dealing with people with like anxiety, stress, phobias, things like that. It does help with performance. So actually performance in the gym, performance in work, confidence, all those kind of things, motivation. So how many people have, like I said, woke up on a Monday morning and gone, right, I'm going to really eat clean today. I'm going to, this is my time. And then come 7 p.m. that night, we're then cracking on the cream cakes and things. Now, a bit of neuroscience behind that, again, is we are looking for a dopamine fix, which is the reward chemical, which I'm sure Dr. Mark knows all about. But the brain will look for the quickest fix to go, give me that reward. And normally that's sugar and things like that. So again, you can use hypnotherapy to almost reprogram and break that habit to actually look for a different reward mechanism. Yeah,
well, you see, that's pretty massive, isn't it? When we talked, we've done 3 podcasts on habits and habit change and behaviour change, and we were saying, weren't we, that the things that give us instant reward are usually the worst things for us out there, whereas the things that give us, like the things that are better for us, there's not, the short term gain isn't that much. So like you say, it's shifting your mindset into seeing the bigger picture, into where you want to be. Like you say, in your head, you know that if you go to the gym and you eat well, you're going to be better off and you're going to be healthier than if you stay at home and you have a few beers and then you get a takeaway. But the pleasure part of it, the instant gratification type of thing, comes from them few beers and that takeaway there and then, so shifting it, it could be massive for some people, because we get it all the time. People can come so motivated, and you can see it in the face. They really want it, but when it comes to crunch, sticking to it, because it's such a big change to but like you said, beliefs, habits, whatever it is before, all that's going on it back that they're not really thinking about. It's that needs changing, and that takes time, doesn't it? And that's or accessing it. If there's, Am I right in thinking then you're sort of saying that this is like it can be seen as it could be a shortcut to changing them habits, couldn't it? Rather than
so it's actually because, like I said, you're relying on willpower alone, which is people. We're talking today, and we're talking at a conscious level. So we're talking consciously, which is only 10%, and then we've got that almost that subconsciousness behind at the back of our kind of mind, which is then sitting there almost going, okay, I've just seen you've had a drink of water, or what's that noise outside? What's this? And it's almost that internal voice. I'm sure you've got people in the gym where you rock up to the gym and you go, right, I'm going to lift, I'm going to try and lift a 10 kg biceps. I've only got little biceps, by the way. So anybody that's listening where they go, is that all? That's massive for me. But you rock up and you go, right, I'm going to lift 10 kg. You try it, you can't do it. You're literally your willpower and your thought. You think you want to do it, but you can't. By tapping into that subconscious mind, that almost tells you are strong. You've kind of got all these different metaphors that we use for that self-belief. You actually can increase your strength just by visualizing you lifting that weight alone. And there's actually some studies on this. Where's my pieces of paper that I've written down? So there was actually a study carried out in 2004 by Vinod Ranganathan, where they got actually 30 young volunteers and they split them into different groups. So one group just performed mental visualization of contracting the muscles. The second group, so there was 3 groups, the second group just did physical, and the third group did physical and that mental visualization. So the group that did the physical and mental, they increased their strength by 53%. The group that just did mental, so no physical exercise, increased their strength by 13.5%. and the group that just did strength did it by 35%. So if you think you've got people in your gym who have got injuries, so things like something, especially when we first go to the gym, we end up overdoing it, we then get injured. So if you are injured and you are getting frustrated because you can't get to the gym, you can actually use the power of visualization of your mind to almost visualize still doing those exercises. So almost if it's an injury on your leg, imagine that then you're still doing those leg presses or whatever, because actually then when you get to the gym, your strength wouldn't have dropped half as much as if you just sat there deciding to eat takeaways or do whatever.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Jodie, we need to get Jodie to sit. So one of the girls who trains here with us 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, she ruptured her Achilles. So she's laid up at the minute and she's struggling, but she's trying to do upper body stuff at home, and she's going to do a box size session tonight. She said she's messaged me. She's going to sit down and do boxercise tonight. She's going to do chair boxercise. So, but for a leg strength to be able to help, because that's your biggest fear then, because that's half of the problem then with your rehab. It's getting muscle back that you've lost, and it's not just the injured side, is it? It's your quad, it's your hamstrings, your glutes, because you're not using that leg the same as you would do normal. So for people, that is another one that's big, yeah. But same again with visualization. There's similar studies with just learning new skills, isn't there? Like people who visualize the skills, it's like you can get as much benefit or near the same benefit as actually performing it. So yeah, and it taps into a different part of the mind. So actually when you are so obviously again, this is Dr. Mark's area, but you think we've got we've got a primitive part, which is our caveman brain, which is the amygdala, and it's got that fight, flight, depression. So that is almost negative, makes us feel guilty. It can't be innovative. It will always look at previous patterns of behavior. Whereas we've got another part of the brain, which is our intellectual part, which again, more studies are coming out now looking at this bit. And hypnotherapy helps you tap into that bit. So when you are in that bit, that helps you then become innovative. It helps you look at almost a logical assessment. So you're able to visualize more. You're able to see that end goal. Whereas the primitive part of your mind is that almost like a caveman going, oh, can't do that, and fear. So it actually does help you tap into living that true potential, and you're almost a better version of yourself. You almost become limitless, I guess, just with power of the mind.
Have anybody read the chimp paradox?
Yes, I love that. I always refer that to everybody. Exactly the same.
That's exactly what that. So that we have our chimp brain, which is that kind of old-fashioned, very kind of pre-evolutionary brain, which is very emotional. But what it does, it checks back into the prefrontal cortex, that kind of human machine type brain, and it goes back to your reference library. I think that's what Laura's talking there. So whatever you've done in the past, all your private experiences, the chimp goes, well, let's go back in this library. Right, that's happened before, so this is my response. So it kind of it just kind of loops that behavior into your system continuously, because this is my experience. This is what I did. This is what I'm going to do. It never gets changed. So I think what Laura's mentioning at the minute is how do we kind of stop that pattern? Every time we get stressed, we go for have a cake. Every time we get stressed, we have a beer. Whatever that loop pattern is, how we taught the chimp to respond to the stressful situation. If we want to change our behaviors and our habits, we can do this the hard way. And we've been talking about the hard way, haven't it, really? Kind of change your environment, and it's a really slow grind. I think shortcuts are a bit of a missell there. I think it's just a different way of getting it, which might be a bit more efficient. It's a bit
shortcut. You know what I was saying, though, don't you? Like, yeah.
But
it's almost tapping into another part of your mindset, isn't it? So it's actually having that intellectual. And some of the studies, when I was learning all about hypnotherapy and that, people like Einstein actually was under hypnosis when he come up with the massive formula that he did. People like Tiger Woods used hypnotherapy to drown out all the focus and the distraction. So I know we're talking about these kind of top athletes and these top people, but if they can tap into that, and that's how far they've come, they're no different from us. We're all human. So if you think anybody that's got this desire or this kind of thing to go, you know what, I want to live this best version of me, it's understanding how you can tap into that.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a question actually, Laura, from one of his members. Now, this is from Rog. Did you see it? He actually put it on Facebook.
Yes, I did. Yes.
So, do you remember it? I thought we've got to ask this because Rog trains here. I've known Rog for years. He's very, very goal oriented. When he started here, we set him goals, and if he knows he's working towards a goal, he will smash it. He will, like he is very goal oriented, and he does loads of work now. So apart from his own training, which is great, he works a lot with Wakefield. We're still involved a little bit with Wakefield Trinity. We used to play for Rogers in kind of does loads of psychosocial work with the juniors, with like the under 16 scholarship. So I think for him, he's thinking goal setting. So I think that was the question. Do you remember it? He wanted to know, would the hypnotherapy be used as a short-term goal, as it's put, i.e. 4-week blocks? But then would that be used as building blocks towards the process of the long-term goal? Is that how it could work?
Yeah, so there's almost a process that you go through. So with particularly how I work with my clients is dependent on, I kind of explain it like a bucket. We've all got a mind, which is a bucket, and it's full of everything, isn't it? All this bills, social media. Oh, God, yeah. And if that bucket's full, it's exactly what we said earlier about bucket's full, I feel stressed, what am I going to go and do? Going to go and just do what I normally, my chimp brain is telling me to do. So the way kind of it works and how I work with my clients is, first of all, I say, let's empty the bucket. And that can be done very quickly because with each session, the more times you listen to the hypnotherapy, it almost replicates REM. And I'm sure you probably may have discussed sleep and the importance of sleep and what happens and how that impacts us. So hypnotherapy, it replicates a bit of the REM sleep, so the rapid eye movement bit. So that basically is your brain processing everything that's happened and storing it back into the hippocampus and all these clever parts of our brain. So if somebody came and rocked up to me and said, okay, make me walk into that gym, then they wouldn't just overnight go, okay, you're going to be this transformational person. It takes time. So actually what it would mean is you'd need to empty your bucket. And that can happen very, very quickly with hypnotherapy because it literally is that REM bit, putting you in the trance. Then that's where the magic happens. Normally, after about 3 to 4 sessions, dependent on how full somebody's bucket is, that's when we then start tapping into that intellectual bit. People do see changes just from one session, though. So normally, a prime example of people who I've worked with is they've come to talk about anxiety and them not feeling themselves. Second session in, they'll rock up and they'll say, I've just joined the gym and I don't know what's happened. I don't know. Hypnotherapists will kind of drill it in. Exactly what you said, Paul McKenna's like, look into the eyes and we'll make you quack like a chicken. And I do joke about that with people saying, we're not going to do that. But if you've set yourself a goal, so if your listeners are saying, right, I've got a 6-week challenge or I've got a 4-week challenge where we've got we want to win a tournament, we want to do something, then actually I'd say 4 weeks is probably the minimum to be able to get to that. But it literally is that putting people into that nice, relaxed state. And while they're in that state, their brain is basically dealing with all the crap that's going on, which then helps them with that laser focus precision to be able to then deal with it. So if you think of, I think there was like an Olympic team back in 2008. I've got lots of stats, but Olympic teams use this and pole vaulters and things like that. So actually what they're doing is they're homing in on that goal. And you can't home in on that goal if you've got a full bucket or if you feel stressed or you've got all these outside distractions. So I always say we don't live in a Disney movie. We've got life, we've got jobs, we've got kids. Everybody's got something, haven't they, that we can use as excuses. But by being in that intellectual mind, it almost helps you see things logical and comes up with being that innovative person. So a 4-week block, back to the question, sorry, Rod, you can just use it even as a one-off session will actually help improve your life dramatically, because if you get a recording with it, that will actually empty that bucket. So therefore, you then become your own almost person that's able to see things logically. And the more you listen to that recording, the more it's going to almost imprint and create those neurotransmitters for you to achieve that goal. Right.
That's probably exactly what he's thinking, because obviously he's working with kids who are probably going through their exams. They've all got the long-term goal is they want to be professional rugby players. Roger's got them down here and he's trying to help them set the goals and put everything in place. And he's just said he's just really interested. He's always been interested in how it works. So that's probably what he's thinking of. So I would imagine that's exactly what them kids need to push what they're going through at that moment. Like they'll be mega stressed. What they're 15, 16, they're doing they're doing the GCSEs, they're applying to colleges and all that. So that's kind
the
of
bucket, yeah. So the bucket's full, and and I always disagree, I guess, with education system. I'm not a conspiracist, I promise, but we don't realise we're actually learning when we are zoned out. So we go into trance, like hypnotherapy, I guess. For have you ever drove anywhere and got to the place and thought, oh my gosh, how did I get here? What? You actually are in that like trance-like state then, but all you're doing is processing. You're not then, obviously, the difference between hypnosis trance and that is you've got somebody talking to the subconsciousness, reprogramming almost those beliefs. So actually confidence and you've got this, and it's not words like that, but it's really, really using metaphors. So that is absolutely important what he's thinking, because if you think you've got, like you said, exams, you've got all this pressure around you. And then on top of that, you've then got to go and win a league, or you've got to go and do something. Plus your training, you've stressed, aren't you? Your bucket's full, the pressure. So actually just by a couple of sessions of hypnotherapy, time out, I guess, will actually help your brain process everything, keep that bucket empty. Not only that, it will actually reprogram their subconscious belief to go, you know what, you've got this, and those kind of motivational things. So you're kind of almost getting it two-pronged. And that's where the difference, because I did get into it when I started looking at mindfulness and kind of I went from this stress head to this person who sat there meditating. Now, the difference between meditation and hypnotherapy, again, is how difficult it is to sit there and just think of nothing. It's like if I said, don't think of a pink elephant, your power of your mind to just visualize a pink elephant. So hypnotherapy, meditation does actually help for mindfulness to switch off, but the hypnotherapy almost gives you that time out and that time to go, right, let's now talk to that subconscious mind to align with your beliefs and your habits and your goals, what you want to achieve, as opposed to relying just on your coach telling you can do this. Or because England team, imagine that. So walking up to that penalty shot, can you imagine the pressure, the stress, the tension? They've practiced that goal probably how many times? They probably, without that crowd there, they probably could get a goal in that net. Crowd, everything else, pressure, what happens? The red crumbles, next minute, goals absolutely in the crowd. Now, hypnotherapy can actually help with that laser sharp vision to go, actually, because you do some visualization to say, right, drown the crowds out. There's techniques you can use like perfect day. So visualizing that perfect day. And for the average person who doesn't want to invest in hypnotherapy, but kind of wants to go, well, I want to live the best life, a little tip they can do is wake up every morning and visualize what their perfect day would be, because the brain is absolutely clever enough to kind of break those neurotransmitters down to go, oh, if that's what you said, let's do it. Now, us Brits, we are just grumpy people, aren't we? We pride ourselves, well, Brits especially, we're like, oh, I can't do that.
Us Northerners, no.
But if you think about it, the conception when I was growing up was always think the worst, and then whatever will happen will just always be better.
Yeah, that does get said a lot. Yeah.
And you kind of go, what? Like, so you're actually always thinking, if I think down here, then if we win, we win. Flick that around. Imagine it's like a bit of an egg timer. Switch that around to go in, actually picture your best. Your brain, when you are zoned into that intellectual part, will find its pathway to get to that, to go exactly like winning the bikini competition. I literally set out with that task on my mind to go, I am going to win this. Now, I'd never even picked up a weight, never even walked in a gym, never even thought about stepping, never even walked in heels, really, because I just like flat shoes, and go in front of people with a bikini on. And so I kind of set my attitude to go, right, just visualize it, just visualize the confidence, just visualize this person. I almost came into this, a kind of alter ego person where you did it, but it wasn't just going in the gym, rocking up and lifting weights and eating well. Actually, the mindset shift was what got me to that place. Same with climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. So again, I did that with 10 people, and 9 of them had altitude sickness. I was the only one that didn't get altitude sickness, and I actually got to the top first. I'm not competitive, by the way. I really am competitive. So they all had altitude sickness. Now, I kept saying, altitude sickness, just a fragment of the imagination. You feel fine, you feel great. That all that internal battle when you are walking 7-hour days with low altitude, setting off at midnight when you've already walked 6 hours a day before. There was some times when that's a dark place, but what got you through it is that going, right, altitude's just made up. All that internal talk to ourselves is massive, isn't it? How many times, and how many teenagers especially, tell themselves they're not good enough, I'm useless. And again, we go to school and get graded and okay, body, and that's it. So actually turning that around really does get you to that better place.
Yeah, definitely. I bet we've mentioned it in nearly every podcast. What did we say? What, episode 15, 16?
Today, 16, yeah.
I bet we've mentioned in pretty much every episode the power of the mind. Not going into detail like you, but you know, like if you tell yourself you can't do something, whether it's get to the gym or you won't do it. You've got to believe that you are going to achieve whatever it is. Whether it's lose weight, get stronger, get fitter. We were talking earlier, weren't we, about this 24-hour challenge that we've got. We're going into that 24-hour challenge saying, we're going to smash this challenge, because if we don't, if we start beating ourselves before, imagine how brutal it's going to be early hours of morning.
Yep. So something else you can do for that, to get you through that, is a technique I use is almost called the perfect day. So if you can, before you start doing that challenge, just visualize that in the morning, and you can use your 5 senses. So if I said to you now, almost like close your eyes, and okay, you're setting off on your bike, you're putting your trainers on, almost taking you through, your routine, what you're going to go, but visualize at what point. So what's the halfway mark? Is there going to be like somewhere you stop off? And you can basically train your mind to go to all that places by just the power of the senses. So smelling, what does that feel like? Is there going to be a smell of rain? What does it, touching it, and really using the visualization bit to go, right, when I get over across that finish line, what will that feel like? And you can almost feel it, that sense of pride, but you can break it down backwards to almost go, right, from the minute you get up in the morning, what is it you're going to eat for breakfast? So set your perfect day out, and that will get you through it, because your mind is so clever of creating those little neurotransmitters. It's every thought and an action, isn't it? So every like cause and effect. And I can go off on one into quantum physics, because I've started to go down that rabbit hole now. We're actually looking like the law of attraction and all that kind of thing. But actually understanding, if you set that intention, you will find a way to get to it. And if you're telling yourself, well, you're never going to do this anyway, and especially outside noise, because I bet you get loads of people coming in going, oh, I'd never be able to do that. What you're doing is massive. And so you that puts fear into you, doesn't it then?
Yeah.
So literally is using power of the mind to almost, and I call it like laser sharp, and stay in your lane and really just zone in.
Right, great stuff.
Yeah.
We're running short of time, guys. So I think we need to start to wrap up. So any kind of final questions we've got for Laura, really, before we run out of time?
No, I don't. I'm sure there will be after. To be honest, I think we definitely need a follow-up one on this, because I think this will spark not questions just for us. I think it'll spark a lot of questions for people who listen. I think out of the ones that we've done, when you look at it realistically, the ones people have bought into, the ones on habits, and they've bought into the ones on like lifting and diet, nutrition and stuff. But this seems to be like one that does help tie it in together, and could answer questions for a lot of people, or give them questions, give them thought on how they can use that, maybe how they've never looked at it before. I think it has, for just as I'm here thinking now, like we try these things, but maybe it's taking time to sit down and do it. But it's definitely, I've definitely got a lot of interest in it, because like I said, we only had one session. You said it, Laura, but we did it once for one game. It was quite an important game, and they did it. We'd had a bit of a bad run, and they brought this bloke in, and we were all a little, well, I was young. I remember laying there thinking, this is a wind up, like what's going on? But then you drop into it. But it 100% worked. You know what I mean? I had no doubt for that one game. It did seem to, you know, like maybe it should have been something that they looked into more long term, or individually we should have, you know, people who believed in it. But it definitely worked, that short term thing, that one session. So when you said one session can make a difference to people, then yeah, I think nowadays you would have probably recorded it and we could have all had it in his earpods and listened to it before every game. I think it could.
That's exactly what like boxers do. If you think about, I mean, not everybody uses hypnotherapy, but they are putting music on, aren't they, to get in that zone, and that is exactly part of the perfect day bit. So people like Tyson Fury plugging into that song, and that is literally they're getting them into that mindset of the visualizing it. And whether you're an athlete or whether you're just the usual gym goer, or even somebody who hates the job, I guess, can just literally use power of the mind to go, well, what can I find that's going to be good about today? And it really is about it. So again, there's I mean, I can talk hours and hours about the neuroscience behind it, but what got me really interested in this was because we talk about power of the mind, law of attraction, but it's how does that work? So that's kind of, then I got studying all that, but I'm absolutely happy to join another podcast and come to your gym and give a talk or do anything. If you've got some members who are really interested, happy to do a session, whatever, just the offer's there.
Great stuff.
Brilliant. No, really appreciate that. I think that's been a great episode.
It's been fantastic. I mean, all I can say is, like, the best example is Laura, because we sat on a call center 20 plus years ago. I would never have guessed that Laura would go and do all those things. Not because I underestimated in any way, but nothing that she had mentioned or talked about that was not Laura. And then to be where you are now, it's fantastic to see it and hear. And that is because you've tapped into this. So for the members who go in, it's always for somebody else. So somebody else can do that. They've got this advantage, they've got that advantage, or wherever it happens to be. Ordinary people sat in a call center in a sat down job, literally physically tied to a desk. To go and do the things you've done means actually it does work if you buy into it, and that's the key thing.
It's investment, isn't it, in yourself? And I just grew up on a little council estate who always got told, like, I don't know, just go out and do this, do that, conform. But again, when I worked with Mark, I used to just probably sit. I think break time, I used to have a boost and a hot chocolate. That was my diet. But yeah, so it's nobody's any different to anybody, and it's that investment in yourself, isn't it, into your mindset, into your body, that then almost separates you to be that very best version of you.
Brilliant.
1 minute left, so
perfect.
Two quick fire questions. So Laura, very quickly, where should somebody start? And if somebody wants to find out more about you and what you do, where would they go to do that?
So they can follow me on social media. So Laura G Therapy is on Insta, and Laura G Hypnotherapy in Ealing on Facebook, and starting power of the mind, even if it's a visualization or affirmation, that is where you can start. So get that positive affirmation for yourself, and it can just be, you can do this, you can do this. Your brain, subconscious brain, will eventually listen.
That's great. And we've done it again. We're right on the dot for timing. So thank everybody for listening. And
thanks, Laura.
Thanks ever so much. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Laura.
Bye.
See you later, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked the episode, we'd like you to share with us that on YouTube, Instagram and Twitter. You can listen again on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Please leave us a rating and a review, and any comments would be more than appreciated. And hopefully you'll tune back next time for our next episode.
The Yorkshire Fitness Podcast.